Hello everyone. So in this video we're talking about converting an equation in standard form into vertex form. So a couple of units ago we learned about both of these forms separately of one another, how we could use standard form to help us graph, how we could use vertex form to help us graph. And we saw that both of them are important, but vertex form, it helps us a lot. It can be a lot more helpful than standard form when it comes to figuring out what a graph looks like. So there's going to be times where we have an equation in standard form and we want to write it in vertex form because, like I said, it gives us some much needed insight about a graph. So I already kind of gave you the answer for this one, that this is the equation y equals x squared minus 10x plus 15 in standard form, and how we would write that in vertex form is y equals x minus 5 squared minus 10. I'm just here to show you the steps. So how do we get from here to here? And it's very easy. We're just using the same procedure of completing the square that we did last unit. So a lot of these steps should look pretty familiar. It's really just like 5 or so steps. So we start off, we take our equation and we set it equal to 0. So x squared minus 10x plus 15, set it equal to 0. And next we're going to move whatever our constant is over to the other side. And so to do that, we subtract 15, subtract 15. These are gone. We're just left with x squared and now we're going to use the formula b over 2 squared. So this right here is b, just a number in front of x. That number is going to be very important for us. Just knowing that whatever number is in front of x, that is our b term. And you'll see why again later. So we're using the formula b over 2 squared, which is just negative 10 over 2 squared, which is just negative 5 squared. Remember, a negative squared, a negative times a negative is a positive. So this just equals positive 25. So what do we do with 25? What do we do with this 25 now? And we do is we add it to both sides. So we have x squared minus 10x, and now we put plus 25 equals negative 15 plus 25. So now what we have to do is we have to factor our left side of the equation. And you could do the x, you could do the box, but there is a trick for these problems that you guys hopefully should see by now after doing a lot of the completing the square problems. And that is, you're going to get the same number. There's a formula to find out what this is in factored form. So if you wanted to factor this, please feel free to do it. You're going to get the same thing I get. I'm just doing it in a couple less steps. So on this next line, negative 15 plus 25, that's just positive 10. And then this is the formula you're going to use. Every single time on the left side, you're going to get something that looks like this. Parentheses, x, something squared. And now you just need to figure out what is that something? What goes in the blank spot right there? And every single time, the reason I told you this b term right here is so important is what's going to go in this spot every single time is b over 2. So to get from here to here, every single time you can use this formula. X plus b over 2 squared. And so in this case, we said b is negative 10. Negative 10 divided by 2 is negative 5. So we're just going to have a minus 5 there. So let's say this was a negative 20. This would be a negative 10. If this was a positive 20, it'd be a positive 10. If this was a positive 4, this would be a positive 2. You're just taking whatever the number is in front of x and you're dividing it by 2. And that's what goes here. And the last step to convert to vertex form, as you guys can already see, this equation is starting to look really similar to the one I told you it's going to look like, is we just have to move this 10 over to the other side. So you just subtract 10 from both sides. And when you're subtracting this 10, you're not putting it inside of the parentheses. You're just kind of tagging it onto the end. Because remember, this x minus 5 is squared. So we can't put a negative 10 inside of there. So what we do is we just rewrite x minus 5 squared, and then the negative 10 just kind of tags on to the end. We can throw a y equals out in front. There we go. You can see here is our equation in vertex form. From here, I just want to go over a couple quick characteristics we can take away from this equation. So we learned about this probably like a month ago at this point, but some of us may have forgotten by now. Just kind of how we can read an equation in vertex form. First things first, this equation directly tells us the vertex. So if we're given this equation, we're asked, what is a vertex? To find the vertex, you just take these two numbers. It's going to be these two numbers. So one little distinction you need to make is that you're going to flip the sign for this number. So this is a negative 5. So the x value for your vertex is going to be positive 5. If this was a positive 5 in here, then the vertex x value would be a negative 5. And then for the y value, you're just taking this exact number right here. So this is a minus 10. This should be minus 10. So our vertex would be at 5, negative 10. Next, this equation also tells us the transformations of our graph. So how this graph of this equation is going to look different than just the parent function graph of y equals x squared. So this one only tells us two things, because there's four things really that we're looking for. Is there a reflection? Does the graph flip? Is the graph skinnier? Is it wider? And those two are determined by the number that's in front right here. But as you can see, there's just a positive 1 out in front. So therefore, there's no reflection. The graph isn't any skinnier or any wider than the parent function graph. However, these two numbers do tell us something about a transformation. First off, this is negative 5. Whatever is inside the parentheses, if that number is negative, it means you're moving to the right by that number. If it's positive, it means you're moving to the left by that number. So since this is a negative 5 inside the parentheses, it means we're moving 5 to the right. And then this number outside the parentheses, it tells us if we're moving up or if we're moving down. If it's a negative, it means we're moving down. If it's a positive, it means we're moving up. So this is a negative, so it means we're moving down by 10. Like I said, that's all the transformations for this one, because there's no reflection since the number in front is positive, and then the graph isn't any skinnier or any wider since there's no, the number in front is equal to 1. So that's it.